Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you for coming this late afternoon. I know that I want to welcome the Assembly member here as well. I appreciate Assembly Member Morinello. He cares deeply about this topic, and so I appreciate the fact that he has come today as well. Some time ago, I made a commitment to our community that we were going to do our best to strive for excellence. The day that I was sworn in, that was the message that I wanted the community to grab a hold of. The important thing isn't for my personal benefit, it's for the benefit of this entire city. For so long, I think that we had settled for mediocrity, whatever was good enough, and the challenge that I want to make then to the community, and you'll hear comments about that again tonight, the challenge to be excellent. I want to thank the members of the City Council that are here this evening. I appreciate your continued support. So on May 25th, 2020, George Floyd was killed by the senseless act of Derek Chauvin, then a police officer in Minneapolis, Minnesota. While this wasn't the first incident of its kind, it was the incident that seemed to be the tipping point on the issue of inequality in the criminal justice system across the country and in places around the world. In many cities, the homicide of George Floyd created uncomfortable but necessary conversations about race relations, public safety, and the need for change. As protests were organized across the country, Niagara Falls residents joined the protests and a call for change. While in the custody of the police, the unnecessary death of George Floyd sparked the outcry, and the focus for many was on law enforcement. My administration saw this as an opportunity to have a broader discussion about injustice, inequality, and race across many aspects of society. And so on June 26, 2020, I announced the formation of a Social Justice Commission, charged with the task of examining and proposing solutions to inequality in law enforcement, education, employment, healthcare, and housing. The appointed commissioners were asked to lead discussions with other community leaders in each of these areas during the summer and fall of 2020, having what I called the necessary uncomfortable discussions about inequality. Commissioners and members were selected for their knowledge in particular subject areas and a previously expressed position that my administration believed relevant to the conversation. Over the next several weeks and months after being appointed, these committees met regularly. As commissioners would advise from time to time, they had spirited debates upon necessary topics in each field of examination. The goal of the Social Justice Commission was to present to the residents of the City of Niagara Falls a plan that highlights the deficiencies in our community, those that we face in various areas, and a potential pathway to correcting them. It isn't a recipe, it isn't a quick fix, or an easy answer. That wasn't the intention. This plan should be seen as a living document that'll need to adapt, change, and grow and mature as we continue this work. If the fundamental issue of inequality is to be effectively addressed, it will take all of us working together to achieve that success. This report, the work of the commissioners and members, is a starting point for the community. By remaining committed to the goals outlined in this report and realizing that change comes through people working together and not by government fiat, we can and we will move our city forward to a more just and equitable place. And again, be proud of our city as we were when we received national recognition for our peaceful protests. we can be proud that Niagara Falls is a community respectful of all people and a shining example for Western New York. The commissioners worked very hard throughout that summer and fall period, some of the final reports coming in close to Thanksgiving. You can see on the screens the commissioners in each one of the areas, and I'll read them for you. In the law enforcement committee, we had the city administrator, Anthony Rustino, and we also had Pastor Craig Pridgeon from the Temple Bethel Baptist Church. In the education committee, we had the president of Niagara University, Father James Marr, and we had the superintendent of our schools, Mark Laurie. In the employment division committee, we had Bishop Jesse Scott, president of NOAA, and Dr. Rolanda Ward. In the healthcare area, we were fortunate to have Dr. Ansari from the Community Health Center, as well as Joe Ruffalo, the Chief Executive Officer at Memorial Medical Center. And in the housing area, we couldn't have been better administered than by both Robin Kruger from Community Missions and Clifford Scott, the Executive Director of the Niagara Falls Housing Authority. I want to extend my appreciation to the commissioners, the fact that they took the time to volunteer to create what ended up being essentially a more than 50-page document that outlines the various concerns and possible resolutions to some of those items. None of this could be possible, though, without some staff assistance. And again, the staff in the executive office, I have to extend my appreciation as well. Again, with the city administrator, Anthony Rustino, certainly Kristen Cavallari, who is here tonight. She's the public information officer for the city of Niagara Falls. Her efforts in making sure that the project continued to move forward were invaluable. The executive assistant to the office of the chief executive, Nancy Shia, made sure that scheduling maintained itself and that all of the available premise locations were available to the commissioners. The compilation of this, when we received the reports from the 5 different committees, they came in various forms. Some were voluminous, some were very brief, but all of them came in a different method. We were fortunate earlier in the year to receive an opportunity to take in an intern from Niagara University. When she first arrived on the scene, there were a few things that we talked about doing and the opportunity to assist the executive office in some way. She was interested in learning a little bit more about how local government operated. This opportunity came, and she ended up being sort of the principal driver of the format of this report that you will see, and that is Marin Geiger from Niagara University. She's with us here tonight again, and as a volunteer intern, I can tell you she probably put in, I can't even count the hours, crafting and drafting a tool that we hope the city will be able to see uniformity across all 5 platform areas, as well as understanding how we want to try and approach these issues. So I want to thank her very much. Now moving into the various sections, in the law enforcement section, what I will do for you this evening is rather than go through the entire 50-plus page document, I'm going to pull out of each item a particular topic that I want to concentrate on. The document itself will be available at the city's website. We are arranging to have it at the Gazette website, and we will also have it, I believe, we've made arrangements to get it at the public library's website as well. So you'll be able to access the entire document, but tonight I'll just review a few things with you. In the law enforcement area, one of the recommendations from the committee was creating a diversified police department. I can tell you that over the course of the last several months, the city of Niagara Falls has been working at achieving that goal each time we step off the platform to either hire some new patrol officers or to elevate officers to the supervisory roles. And most recently, we have had the opportunity to appoint, for the very first time in the city's history, the first African American to take a position in the supervisory staff. I know that it may seem remarkable that after 129 years, this is the first time it's happened, but I'm proud to say that this is just the beginning. We have also been fortunate to swear in over the course of these last several months several minority members of the community into the patrol rank. As well, we have also had the opportunity to bring forward a number of women into the police department to really diversify our approach to policing in the city of Niagara Falls. As a matter of fact, yesterday I had the opportunity to swear in a lieutenant, female. She marks only the third woman to rise to a supervisory role in the police department. We have a ways to go. I hope you appreciate the fact that when I'm saying these things to you, the first African American, the third woman, I want you to realize that I fully understand that those numbers aren't the greatest, but we're starting somewhere, and we're finding ourselves committed to making sure that our police department is as diverse as we can make it. Moving to the employment committee, one of the things that that group highlighted was the fact that there are a lot of things that are going on in the community in terms of either employment resources or opportunities to gain information. And somehow it wasn't being communicated very clearly to residents. And so in response to that, last month during a tour with Mr. Scott, I had an opportunity to listen to another conversation about workforce development programming. It was in that conversation that I realized that this element is exactly what I was witnessing. There were a number of workforce development programs happening in the community in Niagara Falls, but they were happening in silos. They were all sort of operating in their own space. Nobody was really talking with anybody else. And so it was after that tour that I came back to our office and started talking with the city administrator about the creation of a consortium. And so in early April, we developed the City of Niagara Falls Consortium for Workforce Development. Now, what we were also fortunate to fall into is that in order to have this consortium operate, we needed to have someone who understood that subject area and was prepared to marshal those resources. And so we were fortunate that Karen Quandrance from Niagara Community College stepped up to serve as volunteer director of that workforce development consortium. And she's done some spectacular work in the few weeks that she's been at it already. We had the opportunity to bring all of the workforce development programs together to coordinate their efforts. We have now started the process of working on the other end of the equation, and that is the various employers. We have had meetings with the manufacturing sector, with the healthcare sector. We have a meeting scheduled with the hospitality and tourism sector, and then ultimately we'll also have some social care sector industry leaders as well. So the idea will be to speak with the industry about what the industry needs to make sure that, as I've said at a couple of those meetings, if our workforce development programs are teaching people to make round pegs and the industry needs square pegs, then we're not filling a need. So the idea with Karen is to make sure that those programs are coordinated with what the industry needs so that we're moving people from where they're at into jobs. We're helping them move on in their own personal life. And we're also, in my mind, the foundational element of all of these items is poverty. And if we can start moving people from where they are into full-time employment, we improve the community entirely. So one of the recommendations from the commission and the Committee on Employment was to organize these existing resources and to raise awareness. We believe that with this Workforce Development Consortium, we're striking that tone. Looking at healthcare, one of the things that the committee in that portion of the commission indicated was that, and you see it on the board, 97.7% of the minority community living in the most populated location for the minority community, the 14305 zip code, did not have a visit with a primary care physician. I had an interesting conversation with Dr. Davis of the Community Health Center Network. She explained how it was imperative that we work to try and get people to get the basics of healthcare down. You know, this isn't about just attacking cancer or attacking diabetes. It's really about getting people awareness of the basic healthcare requirements to start early, to start living healthier. So while I know that the Community Health Center here in Niagara Falls has a mobile unit, and they've been very active in making sure that they provide healthcare options, Memorial Medical Center had come to us early on to talk about the possibility of creating what would essentially be a mobile medical unit. And we provided through CARES Act funding, the funding for them to get that vehicle. Now, as it's explained to me, this vehicle is essentially a doctor's office or a hospital on wheels. It will have all that is necessary to go into a community, to go into a neighborhood, whether it is the dispensing of flu vaccines, whether it is the need to do certain examinations, whatever is necessary, this mobile unit will have that capacity. And so the idea will be for, again, for those who may have transportation challenges, for those who may not necessarily feel the need to do this, we want to go out to the community. And we think that this helps our healthcare community do that all across the city. You know, probably the most important thing while we're all sitting still in the final stages, I hope, of the pandemic, is to get vaccines out to people. We need to make sure that all who are eligible to be vaccinated get vaccinated. We now know that, at least with regard to one of the forms of vaccination, that individuals 12 years old and up can get vaccinated. So I think that it's going to be opportunities like this mobile unit to get those vaccines out into the community where it's most needed in order for us, all of us, to become healthier. So again, in an effort to increase primary care accessibility, which was one of the things that was asked for by the committee, we think that we're working toward achieving that by making these contributions to our healthcare partners. Talking about housing, again, in our community, we would like, City Hall would like to start moving people into home ownership. It would probably be the single best indicator that we are attacking poverty head on. As people move to home ownership, there's a sense of self-respect, personal pride, the ability to indicate that I've done this on my own, I'm here, I've made it. All of us believe and feel that once you are a homeowner, once you have your own place in the sun, you've achieved a level of self-respect that so many people strive for, and we need to help people get there. And then those who are there, we need to also help them often when it's time for renovations or assistance in keeping their homes. One of the things that the housing group talked about, not unlike the workforce development programming, there are a number of programs out there. They're all over the place. But if you had to ask somebody, what are they and where are they, no one could tell you. No one could provide that honing of all of them in together so that the consumer, the interested party, community groups, anyone who wants to try and help individuals move into home ownership would have a place to shop, one stop. You go to that site, you find out what's available, see what you qualify for, and get yourself moved out of that apartment and into your own home. The faster we can do that with more of the people in this community, the easier we can make it for them to find the opportunities to do that. Again, I think that that's meeting a need in our community, and I also think that it's answering a concern with regard to social justice and with regard to our ability to bring equality to our community. So, as you see on the screen, all of these programs are available to individuals here in our community. And they all provide opportunities for folks who are interested in home ownership to find out how they can access funding, whether it's low-cost mortgages or assistance with down payments and all of those things that might be holding people back. These programs are available. They have, as I say, they've existed for some time. I mean, you're going to see some of those logos up there, and many of you will recognize them. The problem is they've never been organized in a way to allow people to access them clearly. And so while these things may seem simple, you can't imagine some of these things have existed for years and years, and yet people don't even know they exist. They don't even know that that program is out there. So what we think helps home buyers is to be able to organize all of these things. And again, this was done with the help of our partners at Niagara University, Patty Roble especially, who worked to bring these people together here at a meeting right here in council chambers to talk about how we can work together to make sure that the residents of the city of Niagara Falls know what resources are available for them. So again, I want to thank, again, our partnership with Niagara University is valuable. Finally, education. The numbers that you see and the statistics that you see on the board are things that I want to recall for everyone that I spent nearly 10 years at the Niagara Falls City Board of Education. In the last 2 years, president of the board. And I've had many conversations with then Deputy Superintendent and now Superintendent Mark Laurie, who has always spoken to me about the graduation rate. What can we do to help that get better? What's the answer? Now let me first say this. The Niagara Falls City School District has some of the finest teachers, finest administrators. It has an energetic curriculum. It also has a very interested and plugged in Board of Education. And yet, despite all of that, if you take a look, that's a 6-year average, okay? So I'm part of that Board of Education that was looking at that 6-year average. I've only been here a year and a half. Before I came here, I was there. So the reality is, this isn't a new problem. This isn't a problem that just popped up when I got sworn in here. This is an issue that's been confronting our district for a while. The interesting part about it is that as you dive into the numbers, everybody wants to find the easy answer. Oh, it's because we have poor kids. Well, I don't mean to upset everyone, but if our general graduation rate is as reflected, according to the surveys, those students who come from what are determined as economically disadvantaged homes, you may read that as poor, are graduating at a rate of 75%. 75%. It is in those homes that didn't meet that definition, where we're struggling to get to 55%. So there's no easy answer to this. And I can tell you for a long time, probably as long as Mr. Laurie's been with the district, it's always been someone telling the district, fix that. Fix that graduation rate. Do something. And so the district has done many things. They've changed curriculum. I know the superintendent is currently working on scheduling, also introducing new programs into the curriculum in order to be able to provide other options for students. And still, the community struggles along. The district is having the same number of students sort of off-ramping out of high school. So I don't think that the answer is simple, and I don't think that the answer lies inside the district. The city school district has been doing an awful lot for this community for a lot of years. A lot of years they've been supporting this community in many ways, especially so during last year and the pandemic. Feeding people, reaching out for programming, partnering in so many ways. As I have said to a few folks in my run-up to doing this announcement, there are an awful lot of folks who throughout the time that they talk about things use the word, well, it takes a village. Well, it does take a village. And this time it's going to take a village to help the school district. It's up to us now. Where are the groups? Whether it is, and I know the LaSalle Education Club is focused, the Men Standing Strong Together, those are the groups that are going to have to come together in assistance with the school district to help elevate this graduation rate. And there might be others. So if you look at, if I indicate to you that the biggest problem we face is poverty, and you see the statistics on the board, that those students that leave high school fall into poverty, almost 1 out of 3. And with a high school diploma, the number drops precipitously. So it isn't hard to figure out how we can help attack poverty. Now, I understand that a high school diploma today isn't the high school diploma of my father's day. But we do realize that it is a foundational document. It allows people to then make a number of other choices. It provides a certain baseline. Moreover, whatever flavor comes out of Washington with the American Jobs Plan, whatever number ends up making everybody happy there, however they get this to go through, the president has already indicated that 75% of the jobs that he would like to see created in that plan are jobs that will require nothing more than a high school diploma. Well, quite frankly, I would like to see us get to a point where we're not losing 1 in 3, almost a little over 1 in 3 students, and that we're getting them across the finish line. I know the school district is working hard on their end. Now, I'll say the same thing I said when I opened. What are you going to do? What will you do in your groups? What will you do in your churches? What will you do in your places where you can influence people, act as a mentor, be the person who's going to help the district just as much as the district has helped us? What I'm going to do in consultation, and just so that you know, I've had this conversation prior to tonight with the superintendent, so he's not sitting here tonight hearing this for the first time. And by the way, I've heard him tell me this. So this isn't something, I wasn't giving him any revelation. And he has said over and over again how this is a topic that he knows he owns. But I'm here to say tonight that he doesn't own it alone. The city of Niagara Falls has to help, because it's not going to be tweaking around the edges of curriculum. It's not going to be throwing some other program in place. All of those things might help, but they're not going to be the thing that's going to keep that student in school. So what I intend to do in the next couple of weeks is announce, and I'm going to do this in consultation with a couple of partners, I'm going to announce the need for a task force on this topic. We need to bring people together who are able to talk about perhaps different areas that might be involved in why students make those choices. I don't profess to know all the answers, okay? And I think that it's unfair to tell the school district to find out all the answers, because I think it's too multifaceted, and you cannot expect the school district, which is already doing everything from clothing and feeding, in some instances 3 meals a day, and providing programming that ultimately keeps children that do come to school in school from 7 in the morning until 7 at night. I don't know how much more a district can do. And so the question is the same question I ask about all of the things that go on in the city. What are you going to do to help? What am I going to do to help? What will we do to help the district? And it's not just helping the district. It's helping our students. It's helping the future of this community get its legs under it. The reality is, I could sit back, and I've said this to a few folks that are here tonight, I could sit back and worry about, and God knows it's enough to worry about, paving streets and plowing streets and getting the grass cut and make sure that the garbage that's out there gets picked up, because people just throw garbage everywhere. So why would I bother with this topic? I do have a selfish reason for it. And the selfish reason is that as we can improve this number, as we work together as a community to help what the district is doing and raise that graduation rate, it is a wonderful economic development tool. The ability to tell someone who's going to relocate their business here, not just that we can give them free power or low-cost power, or we have land, or all of these other things that we may be able to offer them. I want to be able to offer them the opportunity to say, bring the 27 workers to live in Niagara Falls. And by the way, when you bring them here, we've got programs to help them be home buyers. And if they need some more training, we have workforce development programs that are coordinated, so that as they look at the city of Niagara Falls, they see a city that is actually trying to hit on all cylinders together, instead of the past, which was everybody doing their own thing in the best way they could do it. Together, we will obviously be better. Together, we can achieve the kinds of things that individually we're not going to be able to do, because it may be too big for us. Again, I don't have all the answers on the issue of the education task force, but I do know that once we bring interested people together on this, including a conversation, and I also have to tell you, I had a great conversation with Cynthia Jones, the chief officer, administrative officer at the high school, and she indicated to me that the district may already be sort of ahead of this information gathering, because it appears as though, and I know the superintendent probably will know much more about this than I could offer you tonight, but in order for them to report, the district to report to the state on certain things, one of the things they have to do is get some student feedback. It's about student information. So hopefully that kind of information will assist us, depending upon what the instrument or the tool is that's being used to gather the information. But we have to make sure that we keep them in the conversation, because after all, those are the ones we're trying to help. And so there's a number of things that I think this conversation may lead us to. And that's what I meant when I said earlier that this document needs to be a living document. It will grow, it will mature. The plan could move in a direction that we don't know right now. But as we work through this, we will hopefully learn more, and we will get better. So again, the findings and recommendations expressed and examined in this report provide the City of Niagara Falls with strategies and initiatives to attack inequity and injustice within our city. Overall, the healthcare, education, housing, employment, and law enforcement subcommittees identified poverty, racial bias, and a lack of education and awareness as foundational forces of inequity. Their proposed recommendations suggest methods guided by the same principles that founded the Niagara Falls Social Justice Commission: diversity, equity, and inclusion. The recommendations included in this report are as they are because the city deems them as practical and feasible means to create social change within the community. Some proposals are already underway, and I've explained some of those to you. And the plan is to continue to expand efforts to include some of the other recommendations. Some of these recommendations will also include working with our partners in state government, working with our partners in the federal government, ways in which we can use our collective strength to try and bring change to our community. If I could wave a magic wand and tell you what I would like to see come of this, the city of Niagara Falls is big enough to not be viewed as insignificant, but it is not too big that we can't be a wonderful example for how things work when we all come together. So if I could wish anything out of this, it's that we do become that example. We become that example for Western New York. We become that example for other communities on how a community can circle the wagons and help in a lot of different areas. The work doesn't stop here. This report doesn't represent a finalization of our efforts towards social change. In fact, on the contrary, the findings and recommendations in this report are preliminary steps that the city plans to take for our community to do better and to be better. The subcommittees stated the need for further conversation and collaboration, and that includes all city members, from residents to city leadership. Inclusive, honest, and transparent discussions with the presentation of this report will ensure that the city continues to progress and be accountable throughout the process. Change requires a perspective developed from diversity, equity, and inclusion. The continued conversation and citywide efforts have to include all views, especially focusing on the minority communities. The city and the community within must continue to fight for social justice and progressive change. Together, we can create a future where all members are valued, respected, included, and equitably treated. This report is only the beginning for the city of Niagara Falls. We hope that the recommendations herein inspire optimism in the city's potential and a desire for change within the entire community. More community members can work constructively to accomplish a brighter future for everyone. I said this earlier, government is not the prime mover in this process. Government can assist in recognizing, be receptive, and responsive to the need for change. But the power behind lasting and sustainable growth is by individuals volunteering in the community to continue constructive conversations, to put their shoulder to the wheel and do the things that are necessary. On behalf of the Social Justice Commission, I know that they worked very, very hard for the residents of the city of Niagara Falls, and they have expressed their desire for the need for social justice and change. I hope that everyone will find that this report, while not perfect and perhaps will ultimately evolve in other areas, is a great first step for the community to embrace what needs to be done. And in working together, we can and we will build a better Niagara Falls. Thank you all very much.